Sweep out the rooms of your heart to be the home of the one, purified from cells. Mukta Kimala Afuala. Sweep out the rooms of your heart to be the home of the one, purified from cells. Mukta Kimala Afuala. Sweep out the rooms of your heart to be the home of the one, purified from cells. Mukta Kimala Afuala. Sweep out the rooms of your heart to be the home of the one, purified from cells. Mukta Kimala Afuala. Sweep out the rooms of your heart to be the home of the one, purified from cells. Mukta Kimala Afuala. Sweep out the rooms of your heart to be the home of the one, purified from cells. Mukta Kimala Afuala. Mukta Kimala Afuala. Mukta Kimala Afuala. Mukta Kimala. Sweep it out. Afuala. Let it blow away. Mukta Kimala Afuala. One more time. Mukta Kimala Afuala. Sweep out the rooms of your heart. Shabastari comes from his poetry from quite a long time ago, Middle Eastern poet. And let's go to we'll do our invocation. Give me light, beloved. Give me light in my heart, and light in my hearing, and light in my eyesight, light to my right, and light to my left, and grant me light from above, and light from underneath, and give me light in front of me, and light from behind, and increase my light. And this is, I wanted to read this to you because I came across this and it was such a beautiful way of describing the moon. This is from a man named William Law who wrote for Ambrose Boehm. Nor could light shine unless there was something in nature thicker than itself to receive and reflect it, and therefore thickness or darkness, and must be as eternal as the visible or shining light. Thickness or darkness is and must be as eternal as the visible or shining light. Darkness is so far from being a mere negation or only an absence of the light that it is the first and only substance and the ground of all possible substantiality in nature and the substantial manifester of light itself. So with that in mind, I wanted to just show two pieces today. This, although it's not really a totally accurate viewpoint, it is in reality what's happening. We have this bioluminescence that's coming from us anyway. So as we get out of our own ways, we can actually begin to experience more of the light that's happening within the actual body. And then there's the other form, which is more of the moon, and I thought this picture so beautifully showed it, where there is, because the body is literally it's that substance, that substantiality, just like the earth, when you see the earth reflecting back the light of the sun or the light of the moon. In this way, that sun is being reflected off of her, and that's the quality of the moon. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, that's beautiful. The first one was Robbie Donaghy, who's one of our favorite visionary artists. Yeah.
Yes. So today we're continuing on with this whole connection to really creating that sense of what we think of as absence or emptying out. But really all it is identification with that witness inside, that conscious self, that letting go of all of I should be this way, I should be that way, I am this way, I am that way, all those ways that we hold on to the selves. So one of the things Shabastari says is purified from self. I added selves because it's all of our identification with the judge and with all of the parts that are trying to protect us and the child and oh, they did this to me and all that kind of stuff. That's the purification. It's not that we want to get rid of them. We just want to not identify with them. So this is what we're doing today as we breathe, and we're going to go through a little differently all of the elements first, and then we're going to come back to earth, just so you understand.
And I just want to say, we recently done a little presentation on what the Sufis would call nafs, which is a different word, means the same thing on one level. But cells. You can think of the cells, you can think of the nafs, and I like Murshid Samuel Lewis, the American Sufi, who called this the mind mesh. There's all the different cells form this mind mesh, this matrix, this churning and whirling. And you can think of that on another level as the default mode network for those of us who are the neuroscience geeks in the crowd. It's just these 12 or 13 midline structures that just generate this resting sense of selves, and sometimes I wonder if each one of those centers actually represents a different self. And you can think of the tree of life in the Hebrew, there's 12 or 13 points, which are the same, almost the same number as the default mode network. Mm-hmm. So we're purifying, we're just getting that default mode network to step aside, so it's not front and center. We need that to survive, and that's where the overactivity comes, is again, from all the trauma, all the neglect, all those parts, all the cells of the mind mesh having to work so much harder, as opposed it can relax and drop away. just say one more thing. I had an experience of the mind mesh going away or being completely purified of cells when I was in college. I woke up from my afternoon nap. I took a wee nappy sometimes. And I woke up and I looked around the room and I didn't know who I was or where I was or what time it was. I knew nothing. It was just like, whoosh, just empty. I was just pure awareness. And it was terrifying. And I was like, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden I looked at the clock and I went, 3:15, late, biochemistry lab, Rod Burney, Skidmore College. So I watched it all come online again too. And you can feel that for those of us who've done psychedelic journeys, you could feel when that has dropped away and come back. So here, we're just asking the selves to step aside.
Yes.
So we can reflect and we can radiate.
Right. In this case, we're trying to find how we can be reflectors, but we all need that a little bit in our day anyway, because there's a wonderful way in which that sense of reflection allows us to rest, to not have to be doing.
And I think when you really give your attention to something, there's a reflection that's happening. Mm-hmm. There's a receptivity and a reflection. When I look at the hydrangea outside, and I really open, and the other cells aren't center stage, it's like something really beautiful happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. So let's find our feet on the floor and our breath, breathing in and out of the nose. And just let ourselves feel those little feet, those little toes. Maybe you've got big feet, whatever. It feels like they're so small in comparison to the rest of the body, and just feel that sense of connecting with the earth. And then we're going to begin the process of sifting, of really, which we've been doing, of letting that whatever it is that's no longer needed right now in this moment sift back into the compost of our own bodies, into the compost of the earthiness, so that we do not have to be focused on it. And so we're going to start with our legs, and our legs are like that wonderful sifter, and they're just going to move back and forth, letting everything fall down into the ground as we breathe, mostly noticing the exhale. So we're going to extend that exhale. And as the earth spreads, we're spreading our legs. We bring it up into our hips. Let our hips spread. The in-breath comes, but it's mostly because it's needed. But we're spreading out, letting all of the stuff that is making up our earthiness that is no longer needed at this time. Maybe it's pain, maybe it's old ideas about our bodies. We're just letting it sift through. Imagine that sifter with the flour. Composting down. And then we let it come all the way up into our torsos, and we're letting our torso sift out side to side, front to back. Letting go of anything that's no longer needed, asking those parts to just step aside. Maybe all the parts that have been holding on in our torso, deep inside of our organs. Just gently letting them sift out what's not needed with the breath. And then bringing it up into our shoulders, letting our shoulders sift out. focusing on that exhale. And letting the arms sift out all the way down to the fingertips. You can sift out to the front and the back and the sides. And our heads and necks. And then throughout the whole body, a couple of breaths in and sifting. Letting go of anything that our body's holding on to right now. It doesn't let it just be a clear substance of the earth, soil, dust. And then coming into the water breath as you relax back in through the nose, out through the mouth. And again, we're gonna just feel the water a little bit like pouring down over the top of us. Imagine rain or a gentle shower. Coming down from the top of our heads all the way down through our bodies. And we're going to start to focus on that exhale again. And we're going to begin with our heads and really let the motion of the water, the flow is what allows water to really be purified and cleaned. So we're going to let our heads feel that motion, purify, clean all the way up from the top of our head, all the way through our face, the back of our head. Anything that's holding on, let the water just bring it back into the flow. We can make faces as we're doing this. We can even let our eyes open and move all around, flowing. And we can let it come into our necks and really let those necks flow. Nice big water breaths. Let the water rush out, connect with all the water in all of our cells, continually flowing, moving, not letting anything be stagnant, coming into our wonderful shoulders and letting those shoulders flow. They can flow quickly, they can flow slowly, but then really let them unwind. No more burdens to take on right now, letting go, asking those parts to step aside. Come into your heart and rest. Letting your whole arms flow all the way out to your fingertips, your elbows, your wrists. All those ways we feel like we have to give and receive and what it means, and letting that all go back into the flow of the water. We're just swimming with the water. We can swim with our arms. We bring it into our upper chest and all the way down into our torso, just because it's hard to usually differentiate that. So the whole torso is really letting it flow around and around. Imagine all the fluid within, and it's all just being lovingly moved. Nothing stagnant. All those areas in the heart letting go of all the feelings right now that are in the way of just being who you are right now, a body, reflecting. You don't need to get rid of them. You just ask them to stay in your heart, to have their seat, to find their place. Letting the water flow through, letting there be movement in all those areas. All the way down into your hips. Let your hips have movement. All the way into your sexual organs so that everything gets to just come back to the way it is, not all the things we've thought about it or what we think we need to do about it. Just letting go with the water. Letting it come up into your upper thighs, and so that they can connect into the hip socket. Letting them move from the hip socket really and flow. And you can bring it down into your knees, letting your knees flow, and your ankles, your whole leg. Asking gently your whole leg to just let go into this body of water, the flow of life. All the way down to your toes. And letting your whole body again be in that flow of the water, moving gently. You might feel like you're seaweed, but see what it's like to just feel like you happen to be the water. You are the ocean or a wave or the river, a lake, gently lapping. Just feel all those different ways that you can become the body of water. One more big water breath. Letting everything flow out. All the way down to the tips of your toes. And we're going to bring in now the fire breath, breathing in through the mouth, out through the nose. And we're going to feel that energy of how fire invigorates. A gentle kind of vibration that happens in our whole body when we're open to it. So fire really purifies through burning, through really letting things like totally shake out because it's connected to the sympathetic nervous system. So we're going to let the fire come into our legs, our toes, our knees, and we're going to let them shake and flick them as though they're burning logs, letting go of anything that's no longer needed right now, that keeps us maybe unable to move or take the action we need to take with our legs. Maybe it's got us frozen. And let that movement just keep coming out through the legs, just like the deer shakes after it's been afraid. And bringing it all the way up now into our hips. Our hips and our lower belly. Letting it shake up all this old ideas about who we are sexually, about the fact, thinking that we're not safe, and letting go of that right now. Letting ourselves know we're safe, like flicking it off, shaking it up, making space with the fire, sun element. All the way up into our solar plexus and our hearts and our chest, our backs, flicking it off in our whole chest, back. Letting go of any way we've had to hold our hearts from being affected, letting all the cells know it's okay right now. There's nothing we need to protect. Flicking it off. Coming all the way up into the shoulders. Flicking off all those extra burdens, all those extra responsibilities. Letting all the cells know there's nothing else you need to do right now. All the way down into your whole arms and your fingers, your elbows, your wrists, flicking it all off. All the way up into your neck and your head. Letting it all go. All those ways that we have to stay together. Letting the whole body be filled with this fire, light energy. And flick it off. Flick off any extra tension, any extra places that are in the way of just receiving that energy. And one more fire breath. And letting yourselves settle in. And coming to the air breath. The air really blows things away. It's the afu that we spoke to earlier. So on that exhale, especially focusing on that and letting ourselves really let that beautiful air come through our heads, just like it's whistling through. Imagine that there's beautiful holes in all of our thinking, that we don't have to think and figure things out anymore. We can ask those parts to just take a rest. And let those beautiful holy areas come all the way down into our neck and our shoulders and our arms. More and more space, just letting the air blow away anything that's no longer needed. We've been burned up and now the ashes are just being blown away. And let that go all the way down into your upper chest. Making space. Letting anything that's in the way of our hearts and our connection to love, just letting it blow away right now. letting all those parts know we're safe, we're okay. All the way down to our solar plexus and haras, all the way down to our hips. And just letting the air blow through all of the body that wants to be emptied out. And then taking one more air breath. And finding your feet again really firmly on the ground. If they're not firmly, you might want to pick them up, put them back down on the ground, and you want to let yourself come back into the earth breath, in and out of the nose. And now really gently, I'd like you to begin to be curious about this body that's left, this material, this substantiality that is not just a negation, but is really truly here, present. Sturdy. Made of the same stuff as soil. And see, when things have emptied out a little, what's it like to come into this body? Begin to think of yourself as your own moon. You are a body that reflects the light, that reflects what's outside and what's inside. So feel into your legs as substantial and as reflectors. Your hips and hara and solar plexus as substantial reflectors. Your arms, your torso. All present as part of this beautiful earth that reflects the light all the way up to your shoulders, neck, and head. And let yourself feel yourself as the full moon, your own full moon. Full to whatever extent you are today. And then bring in the light for just a moment. We're going to breathe in the fire breath and bring in that light and feel ourselves as that reflector of that light. opening to the light around us, the air around us. Just naturally reflecting all that is. And as you're ready, let's have a seat and bring this into the second part of the meditation.
Settling. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. Just letting your breath, you might even go for that moon breath. Just letting the inhale happen naturally on the exhale. Just focusing on the left nostril and the emptying, the breathing out through the left nostril. And as you do that, bringing your awareness, your loving attention to the sacred space of your heart. In the body, just feeling the sensations, the gross sensations, the coarse sensations of the physicality of the body, and also any subtler sensations, any energetic qualities in the sacred space of your heart. And allowing yourself in your heart, which is the center, to be the center in the garden of your heart. And if any cells come up that block you from just receiving all the sensations on physical and energetic levels in your heart, just as you do that moon breath or you exhale, just breathing them back so they can just form a circle around you, but you're in the center, in the garden of your heart. You're polishing the mirror of the heart. You're gently brushing the cells, the dust, to the sides. They can form a circle. They can be receptive. They can observe. They can be here too, just not in the center of awareness. That's for you as conscious self. And as continue to bring your awareness to the heart and drop in, becoming more and more receptive to whatever's happening in the garden of your heart today. Just listen to the invocation. Toward the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty. The only being united with all the illuminated souls, selves, who form the embodiment of the Master, the message, the mystery, the miracle, the Mother, the Spirit of guidance. And just take a few moments to continue this beautiful loving breath in and out of your heart, letting your focus be on the exhale and perhaps the left nostril, to just keep receiving the impressions, the sensations on physical and subtle levels, and any images, whether there's a felt image, whether there's a feeling of the sacred space, the garden of your heart today, whether they're visual images, you can see, auditory, you can hear with the eyes of the heart. And the way to see and hear with the eye of the heart is when we really become conscious self and the other selves just step aside, that we can receive, we can reflect like the moon so simply, so clearly, without dust storms or clouds or distracting thoughts. If they're there, that's fine. With each exhalation, just gently blowing them back to this beautiful circle as you're in the center in your heart. Each inhalation breathing into the garden, the sacred space of your heart. Each exhalation dropping more deeply to reflect and just having those other selves step aside. So it's just conscious self receiving the heart. being in the center of the heart, reflecting the qualities of the heart, receiving, reflecting the qualities of the heart. As you receive whatever's there, you can just imagine as you breathe out, also radiating that back to all of us together. Thoughts, sensations, subtle tensions come up, that's fine. Just breathing them into that circle around you so you're in the center in your heart. And sort of imagine, if you wish, all the thoughts and things. Tensions are in the body, the thoughts are in the mind, and the heart's in the center. They can be there. You're just in the center with them around gently. And you can stay with that, dropping into your heart, breathing, dropping in, being receptive, breathing any cells around. And when you're ready, with all love and respect, calling into the garden of the heart, into the center of this circle of cells, where you're in the center as conscious self, calling in beloved high self for a time of communion, a time of guidance, a time of dialogue, knowing the most important thing is to have that intention and then to be receptive. And high self may just be that intention, or may come as an image, or a deep felt sense, or an energetic quality. It may come as a wise being, or an animal ally, or some form that's been in the past, but just being receptive with each exhalation, breathing away all the expectations, all the figurings out, all the tensions. So they're at the circumference of this medicine wheel, this sacred hoop of you. And you're right there in the center with high self. Just beginning with the time of communion. Receiving any blessings, any love as you breathe in, and reflecting them back to high self as you breathe out. Letting each inhale and exhalation form this infinity loop between you and high self. And now you can breathe that in. When you're ready, you can just stay with that beautiful communion with you and high self. Or if you wish, you can imagine breathing in the light, the love, the life, the love, the harmony, the beauty of high self. And as you exhale, breathing it back to all the cells in this circle around, all the selves inside. Imagine, invite them to that circle surrounding you and high self, and you can breathe this blessing back to them. And any of them that want to receive this, that are open. Otherwise, it can just go around them. And if they're open, it can just breathe through every fiber of every being of every self. All the sensations, the feelings, the thoughts, the images, the behaviors of every self. Breathing in the light, the love of high self. Breathing this back to all the selves, radiating it to all of them. Maybe some selves you only know as a feeling, or others as a tension, or others as a thought. Whatever way you know that self, just breathing this light love of high self. Just inhaling it, being receptive, exhaling, reflecting it back to any selves inside that are open and that want this blessing. Their worried selves or judging selves, that's fine. Just having them move to the circumference and breathing this blessing back to them. All the selves are welcome here. All the selves, all the parts are worthy of receiving love, of receiving attention, of receiving compassion, empathy. As you breathe out, you might just let each self you know you're aware of just say, I love you. I see you, I hear you, I want you, I love you. But breathing that love in from high self and then reflecting it back. If you wish, you can just stay with blessing, breathing in this blessing from high self, receiving it, reflecting it back to each self. When we breathe in from high self and reflect it back to our inner selves or to others in the world, then we don't become exhausted and depleted, because we're just reflecting the light, the love of high self, of infinity, of the cosmos, of the one, letting it flow through us and reflecting it back. You can stay with this with your inner selves if you wish, or when you're ready, you can just imagine all of us gathered here today, breathing it in and breathing this back to all of us. You can just imagine that in your mind, feeling our presences. If you wish, you can gently open your eyes and breathe it back to all of us, whatever allows you to just deepen into your practice of breathing this in from high self. And then receiving that and then reflecting that love to all of us gathered here. Just make that, you can stay with that or make it a little larger to all those in your social atom, all those who you know, friends, family, acquaintances, people in your lives, the clerk at the grocery store, all those people you know and you come in contact. Breathe in this love, this light of high self, receive it, and then reflect it back to all those you know in your social world. There are parts that come up and say, I can't do that, or that's too difficult, or I'm angry, or I don't understand. Just breathing this from high self, breathing it to them. Otherwise, keep expanding that circle. if you wish to close, you can make it bigger. You can breathe it back out to the whole world, to all those known and unknown to us. Breathing this light, this love from high self, receiving it in our hearts, receiving it as conscious self, breathing it back, letting it flow through all our cells, friends and family, and then out to all sentient beings, all life, even the rock people, the oceans, the rivers, breathing it back to our whole precious world of Gaia. And just imagine in the center again, high self, this receiving this, letting it flow out with each exhalation, receiving it on the inhalation. Each exhalation is a wave through all your inner selves, through all your friends and family, and to the world. Breathing this with high self, letting the breath flow in and flowing out, inviting all the selves to just join in the rhythm of breathing this in and letting it flow out to the world. And just a few last breaths, letting this light, love light, receiving it, reflecting it back. And just knowing, what if this is actually one of the most precious jobs of each of us as a human being? To receive the love, the light of the source of high self, through high self, and to reflect it back to our inner and outer lives. And then we'll take a deep breath, the sacred sound, Hu, bowing to our inner life. And then the same bowing to our outer lives as we come back in our own time, refreshed, aware, alert. Deep breath in. Another breath in. Coming up. And you can sit in silence, you can write or draw, but like the moon again, reflecting on your experience from this morning.